Okay, good morning, everyone. Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back. 5 to go. Parshas Mishpatim 5784. Also, Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon. Okay, you could breathe a little bit more when you say the word Rishon after Adar. So a little bit more time to get your costumes ready, a little bit more time to prepare for the holiday that comes up after Purim, which also starts with a pay and with a P. I'm not going to say it out loud, lest somebody fall off their chair. What is amazing, though, just to appreciate, Rosh Chodesh Adar is tonight, tomorrow, and Shabbos, right? Friday, Shabbos, is that this year we have the opportunity to celebrate a Purim Katan. You have a Purim Katan, then a regular Purim, and then we go into that other holiday right afterwards. And what is very special about that is that this is something that we've been yearning for a very long time. The Gemara has a machlokas, actually, in which Adar do we celebrate Purim? Where's the machlokas? I think Daf Vav, Daf Zayin, Maseches Megillah, appropriately, as to which is the right Adar. And if you read the email that went out a few weeks ago about yurtzites, so if someone had a yurtzeit in the month of Adar and it's a regular Adar, so when do you celebrate yurtzeit? The first Adar. If somebody had a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, which one do you do? The second Adar. That is a very common mistake. And if it can happen where somebody, especially a boy, is not going to lay in a whole, part. It can happen. Things like that might happen. Mistakes might happen in that realm. But it's a second Adar in that regards. When it comes to the celebration of the holiday of Purim, it is the second Adar. And why is that? Mismach Geula L'Geula. We want to connect the Geula of Purim to the Geula of Pesach. That is the preferred approach. Now, why is that? Really, the two Geulos are very different. The Geula of Mitzrayim, and that's the parshas that really we're coming off of right now, that Geula is a Geula of top down, right? It is really HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrating everything with his messenger, Moshe Rabbeinu. Aaron HaKohen had a supporting role, but really, in terms of the Makos, leaving Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf, everything is orchestrated from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a top-down holiday. There's an Isarusa de La'ela, we would say in Api Kabbalah, and then there's Isarusa de Latata. Hashem initiates the entire process, and then we follow suit by following God into the Midbar and following all the things that he tells us to do. Stand here, do this, the Korban, it's called the Korban Pesach, you're going to do it in the future. Whereas the holiday of Purim is Kemat the exact opposite. The Jewish people were in peril. We were in danger. Things were going to change very significantly. Lashmid, larog, labeid, it's kol haYehudim, minar v'atzakein, tav v'nashim. Everyone was going to be destroyed. And me'ayin yavo ezri. Where would that miracle come from? Where did it come from? Above or below? Below. It came from Esther Hamalka. It came from the initiation, right? It was those miracles, which are very much within nature, were initiated from the Jewish people, from the leadership of Esther and Mordechai. It started below, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated above. Two different ways of having miracles and celebrating holidays. You're right, honey. He's arguing everything's always from Hashem. You're correct. Yes. You're correct. Hashem's name is not mentioned once in the Megillah. We need to daven. We can't take a step back and do nothing. The Megillah, I think, encourages us and pushes us that when we see things that are happening that are very difficult to accept in this world, we don't just say, let God do it. Let God take care of it. No. We need to be involved. We need to be active participants in it. And sometimes what Hashem is waiting for is just that. We need to take the initiative and to daven and to fight and to bear up, right? That's the Jewish people got up and fought a war. The fact that they won the war is unbelievably miraculous. You see Yad Hashem in So what are we celebrating on Purim? It's our ability to initiate. And Hashem says, you initiate, I am there with you. Before we even get to a Purim this year, we have a Purim Katan. We've been waiting, right? We've been waiting. It's been 4 months. We've been waiting for a Purim for a very long time, for a very, very long time. And we've been trying, right, through our initiatives, trying to be very conscious each and every day of the Chatufim, of the Chayalim, of the hundreds and hundreds of people, not thousands of people, if not thousands of people that are sitting Shiva across Eretz Israel. And we're trying to be intentional and doing things and mitzvos for them and waiting for a Purim Gadol, so to speak, right? A regular Purim. But this year, maybe appropriately, we'll take it in pieces. We'll take a Purim Katan, and then we'll take a Purim, and then Bezrat Hashem will go from there straight into Pesach, right? Where it all comes all together, Bezrat Hashem. And maybe just have that frame of mind as we enter Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon this year. The coming off of the unbelievable experience of Matan Torah, we enter almost the mundane reality of Mishpatim, right? Ve'ela Mishpatim asher tasim lefnehem. These are the statutes, the laws, the rules that I place before you. Ki tikna eved ivri, when you purchase an eved ivri, a Jewish slave, a Jewish servant. There's so many mefarshim on here, I'm turning pages. Sheishanim yavod, he shall work for 6 years, ubashviyas yeitzei l'chav shichinam, and then he leaves on the 7th year. Fascinating that the very first mitzvah that we are learning after the Matan Torah experience is avdos, is the notion of being an eved. Isn't that strange? Like, I don't know. What would you guess? What would you want? I don't know what I would think. I can't think of a mitzvah that I would expect to be the first mitzvah. Okay, now Moshe Rabbeinu says, okay, Shiur starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring a coffee, don't bring a coffee, but the doors are going to close at 9:04. And come to Shiur. And what are we learning about? We're learning Torah. What are you learning? Eved Ivri. Interesting. No?
That's who they were.
That's who they were. That's what they know. That's who they were. Okay, very nice. I think it's a very nice idea. So first answer today comes from Honey Aaron. And you suggest, right, that maybe the message here is teach people what they know, right? And then build off of there. There's obviously so many things that we don't know, but when you're thinking about educating and to be a master mechanech, and we're always learning throughout our lives, what should we gravitate towards and what should the teacher teach? It's always important to start with something that people can connect with. Here is something, this is called halacha l'maisa. Why is this halacha l'maisa? Because they were just avadim 49 days ago, 50 days ago, and now they left. So for them,
also to show
the
difference. It's like, okay, you were avadim, you had no choices, you were told what to do, and yes, you might have an eved working for you, but you need to relate to this person like a human being, not like a slave.
Great. So the institution of avdos, and you notice I gave 2 different English translations of the word, slave and servant. There's a difference there. And in Judaism, an eved is not a slave. An eved is a servant. Or a servant has rights, the master has responsibilities. There are not full masechtas, but full, chunks of Gemaras and Shas that deal with the responsibilities of the master towards their eved. Different areas of the Torah that talk about this. And this is a very real thing. So we are comparing this comparative literature. What you were just a slave in Egypt. Egypt has one role of what a slave was. We know how slaves were treated in this country many years ago, and this is very, very different. There are actually historians that have tracked rabbis' sermons from the times of the Civil War. And I forgot the name. One was Rabbi Einhorn, and I forgot the name of the other one. Another rabbi, one was Reform, one was conservative. Then they were very knowledgeable. And the two of them spoke about, is Judaism pro-slavery? Right? And is the Torah, God forbid, outdated? Right? Honey's like, get out of here. Okay? So one, they pulled out these sermons. Was writing, no, the Torah has slavery. We don't do this today. Even though the Torah has it, it's not something for our generation to have. We don't have this. We don't believe in people being slaves. The other rabbi, right, at the same time, they weren't talking to each other. They were just talking at the same time, was saying, no, the American definition of what a slave is not what the Torah writes about. I think Rabbi Sachs has an article on this also. And it's very, very clear. The fact that you need the pillows that they use in their bed and the mattresses that they use are the same ones that you need to have. And whatever dinner you get is dinner that they need to have. You already see there that the dynamic is very, very different fundamentally in terms of that. But answer number one to our question is, why begin with Avdos? Because this is what they know. Wait, Jay.
Yeah, question, maybe an observation. So in English, we have different words, but in Hebrew, it's the same word.
Because there is no such a thing as taking advantage of a person to that degree.
No, but like you want to say a servant, maybe my wife, I discussed this yesterday with Claire, and she says an indentured servant. That's what we mean when we say an Eved Ivri. Right.
We don't have that concept that somebody is supposed to be treated like an object. Human beings are human beings. They're not treated as objects. We have halachos against that.
Rabbi.
Yeah, Nathan.
Is there a comparison?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
Jay, sorry.
Thank you. But we're all Eved Hashem.
Correct. That is the foundational problem with an Eved that decides to stay for longer than they have to. Nebuch for this individual, and we'll talk about this in a moment, they stole, they fell in hard times, and they are stuck being a slave. But the goal of them to being a slave is to really bring them into a certain type of household, to expose them to people that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to beforehand. And maybe now they can live life differently. They're getting paid while they're there. And hopefully they can leave with some money in their bank account or maybe they're going to end up working for the said individual that they were an Eved to beforehand. But the fact that some people want to stay, then we put a patch. Then, many Mefarshim ask this question as why are we, putting a hole in their ear? Why are we piercing their ear only when they decide to stay? Because they did an Avera. They did an Avera 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Now we're doing it? No, the answer is because now they never learned their lesson. We want everybody to be free. We want everyone to be Avdei Hashem and not Avadim Avadim to a human master and then ultimately to somebody else.
Rabbi. Rabbi?
Yeah.
Yes. Is there a similarity between the slave in this country and the Eved Kanani?
No, I don't think so. The Eved Kanani had a lot of same rights also. He treated them very differently. Yeah.
It's not only for the Eved, it's this, in order for society to function well, there has to be a system of reform. The penal system that our country has had for hundreds of years did not work, and they went from one extreme to an extreme of not to keep people in jails anymore. We need a system that really helps to change people, and that's what an Eved.
Actually, someone moving to our community.
What?
Somebody moving to our community from Arizona. Classic Rebbitzin story. Sarah was in food showcase in the summer in August, and buying a few things for, like, I don't know, a few hours before Shabbos, and someone like called Sarah over and said, pointed to this other couple and said, she's the Rebbitzin. They're looking for a place to stay for Shabbos. They might move here. Okay, we had them over for lunch. Wonderful. He's a professor. They're Israeli, and he's one of the world's experts on how to reform prisoners in jails. They've done very unique things in the state of Israel. Right? I think it was Golda Meir who said, "We're not a country until we have Jewish thieves in prison." So he's like an expert on this. He's moving to the community in a few months. He got a professorship, I think locally, maybe in John Jay. So it happens to be, I think Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky would point out, I heard this from his grandson-in-law, that a jail in America, its real name is a penitentiary. What does that word come from? A penitentiary? Repentance, right? To do tshuva. Right? That's the real role of, that's what an Eved Ivri is. An Eved Ivri is someone shemachruhu Beis Din. Right? Why would Beis Din sell this individual? It's because they stole something. And because they stole something and they can't afford to pay it back, they end up being sold. So what essentially is that saying? If somebody stole something and have no money, what do? Go to their parents, a brother or a sister, maybe they can pay back whatever. This person has no support, right? Or nobody wants to support them, or it's happened so many times that no one's gonna bail them out this time. So what do they need to do? Now they're gonna be exposed to a family that could afford to purchase a servant, right? And this is the way Rav Hirsch really, and Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky stretches this out even further, is that they're going to be living and being treated very nicely and living in a place and being exposed to people that they were never exposed to. And what's that going to lead to? Hey, you got some great skills. Maybe a friend's going to come over for Shabbos and say, you know what? I need someone like you. When you're out, it's not what you know. Sometimes it's who you know. And now you're exposing this individual that lived in a different part of the community, that was never sat next to these guys in shul, that they never knew before. Now, all of a sudden, he can get out after 6-7 years, maybe even earlier, and have a real life for themselves. That is the goal. Rabbi Yaakov says this whole process of also, what do? You're treating him really well. Sometimes people need a second chance. Right? Everyone needs a second chance. And when someone makes so many mistakes around the same people all the time, we just get fed up with them. It's real. It's real. So what happens? You put them in a totally different environment where they don't know that past of them. Or even if they do, it's all on paper. It's not emotional. Then you're able to really help, right? Just by treating the person differently, you can really see change in this individual. And that's really the goal of an Eved Ivri, of the state of Avdos for the Jewish people. That's what an Eved Ivri is. Okay.
Rabbi, when did this mitzvah kind of like transform itself to like kind of disappear? In other words, at some point in time.
When did it disappear? Probably after the Chorban Abayis. We stopped. We know that Rabbi Gamliel had an Eved Kanani. That's definitely, he was a pretty famous guy. His name was Tevi. Tes Vez Yud. He was very knowledgeable. He was holding in Shas and Poskim. Eventually, he converted to Judaism.
In other words,
He was Eved Kanani.
At some point in time,
Yeah.
I came to Honey tomorrow, and I said, I went ahead and helped this guy out. I bailed him out. We're taking him into the house. I think she's going to tell me, you're crazy.
I think Honey would appreciate it. After this year, this morning, she's all in. She's all in.
Most wives would say,
Yeah.
not in my house. I don't want to expose him to the kids. I don't want a strange person here. So there must have been at a certain point in time where there became a mindset that
It's not a good idea.
it's a good idea, but it's not.
It's not for me. Definitely when Jewish people were not living in the state of Israel, when that becomes more difficult. I'm not sure. I'm not sure when it's done.
It's
I'm not sure.
interesting that this-
I'm sure there's a PhD or some
there's a
article
transformation of-
written on
anyway,
this.
It seems it's
Yeah.
it's a real good mitzvah to do. You're helping
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And you're getting them involved.
Yirmiyahu Hanavi talks about this, about the Jewish people were not treating the slaves well enough, or they weren't freeing them early enough. And he exhorts the Jewish people, exhorts the Jewish people for this, for not taking care of the slaves the right way, but they had slaves then. Okay, I wanna, yeah.
Guy works with prisoners. You happen to know if he works with terrorists also, or only,
I think Jewish, yeah.
Even before this whole concept, the most famous ever, we don't even talk about.
Eliezer Eved Avram.
And what was it now? It was like
I think we should make a school for Avadim and we'll call it Yad Eliezer. Okay, I don't know. No, I don't know. No, he doesn't. I don't think he works with terror. I think it's within the Jewish system. I will tell you, I have a cousin, a cousin's daughter. They have one daughter in the Air Force, and they have one daughter that's in Shiur Lumi. One daughter wanted to go to the army. That was always what she wanted to do. And the other daughter said, no way, I'm not going to the army. Shiur Lumi. Who's been more scarred? More scarred. She's doing Shiur Lumi. Where is she working? She wants to be in medicine. She's working in a hospital. They were treating terrorists on October 7th. It is not easy to see that in person and to experience that. And to say, can you help in here? Please bring something to help this person that maybe murdered 5 of your friends. It's insane. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so Kitikna Eved Ivri, we begin with Eved Ivri. One other or two other answers to this question as to why we begin with Eved Ivri, Honey's answer was wonderful, is the following. We begin with Eved Ivri because maybe something so basic to us is, and maybe this is something that we also, is to be careful about other people's money. Very often, we are not so careful about other people's money, and we need to be reminded as the very first mitzvah, a prominent place is to be reminded about being careful about other people's money and all of the mitzvahs associated with that. And that is very relevant and also very sometimes taken advantage of in this world. The Ramban writes over here, the Ramban and and Rashi have a major machlokas. We discussed a major machlokas last week regarding the order of the parshios, the state of the parshios. There's also machlokas here. Rashi writes that Mishpatim, or really the end of Mishpatim, is out of order. The end of Parshat Mishpatim, Perchav Daled, which is the very end, the Bar Mitzvah boy, the Shabbos, we'll be speaking about that, is Nasa v'Nishma, is almost Matan Torah part 2. Rashi says that didn't happen then. It really happened at the same time, the day before Matan Torah, and the Torah waited until after Mishpatim to write about it. Why? Got to ask Rashi. Okay, we'll talk about it in a moment. The Ramban says no. We got Matan Torah, the Aseret Dibros, then we have Mishpatim, and then the Jewish people said Nasa v'Nishma. Now, why in the world, the Ramban asks on himself, would we have all these, tort law, Dini Nezikin? Why would this come up right now? So he says, if you look at it very carefully, all the Aseret Dibros are alluded to in Parshas Mishpatim. That really, Parshat Mishpatim is an elaboration on the Aseret Dibros. And that's why we begin with Ki Tikna Eved Ivri. This is very similar to, or it could be very similar to Honey's answer, is what is the first Dibra? Anochi Hashem Elochecha, Asher Hotisicha Me'eretz Yisrael Mibeis Avadim. I am your God who took you out of Egypt, a house of bondage. You guys were slaves. So an elaboration on that is to learn all the dinim of being slaves. We have references to Shabbos in here, Mekalal Aviv V'imo, Maka Aviv V'imo. That is, again, a further elaboration here. Rav Hirsch uses this to explain that this is almost like the first construct of Torah Shebechsav and Torah Sheba'al Peh. Obviously, everything here is written down, but that's what the role of Torah Shebechsav is, Torah Sheba'al Peh is, vis-a-vis Torah Shebechsav. Torah Shebechsav is written down, and then, not everything's written down, right? The biggest real estate in Judaism is the Torah itself. We're very, very careful what's written down, what's not. And then it's further elaborated on in the Torah Sheba'al Peh. So this is almost like that construct, building off of it. So that's why the first mitzvah coming off of it is really just building and developing more ideas related to the very first mitzvah or dibra given in the Torah.
Rabbi, also, when you come from someplace, you need to understand how it feels to be in that place. It's going to be an evidence. You know what it means to be in heaven, so you have the ability
100%.
to deal with that much better.
You can be more sensitive to those people.
Sensitive, so we can be able to perform the
Yeah.
mitzvah behind
Ve'ela mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem. These are the laws that I placed. What does lifneihem mean? Before you. What do you mean before you? So before you could mean in front of you, right? If I put this chumash in front of you, Shira, that is lifanav, right? Lifneihem. Or it means before you, like before. Right? Before this is that. These mishpatim come before this. So says, quoted in the Sefer Yagdil Torah, what does Lifneihem teach us? Says the Yagdil Torah, Lalame ki mishpatei Hashem, kodmim lahem atzmim. These mishpatim, these basic human laws, these din and nezikin, things that deal with monetary compensation and laws that we deal with all the time, come first. Lifnei aseres hadibros hane'amarim b'parsha kodemis. Ba'akasav larames hamitzvah shebeit adam lachaveiro kodmos af la'aseres hadibros. They come before. Exactly. Derech eretz kadmol Torah. He quotes a different ma'amar chazal that when Hillel Hazaken, when a ger came to Hillel Hazaken and said, "Teach me all the Torah on 1 foot," what did he teach him? The alach sanei lechavercha lo sa'avid. What you hate, don't do to your friend. Zu he kol Torah kula. Al keinemar v'hafta l'recha kamocha ani Hashem. Right? Through keeping the mitzvos, bein adam l'chaveiro, you can also be a very good Jew. Too often, what makes a religious person religious? The mitzvos bein adam l'makom, right? How often do they put on tefillin? How often do you daven? How often? Very, very important. Let's not underscore that. Not a question. But to say that Beit Adam L'Chaveiro takes a back seat, no way. Asher tasim lefneihem, we can become, and we should become Ovdei Hashem, also by serving our fellow brothers and sisters, and having them very much on our mind, and being meticulous in our dealings with individuals as much as we are with Hashem. I'll tell you an amazing thought. Some of my father's friend told this to me when we were on vacation. He said, I'll tell you a great word. He said Rabbi Lau was in his shul a few years ago, and he said, Rabbi Lau said this for Torah. Rabbi Lau is very good at that. Like he's like memorable divrei Torah. V'hafta l'recha kamocha ani Hashem. What's ani Hashem doing after love your friend like you love yourself? But what's the connection? He says something amazing. He says, the way that you love and the way that you treat your fellow, brothers and sisters is the way that I'll treat you. That's ani Hashem. They're my kids too. The way that you treat my children is the way that I'll take care of you. Mida keneged mida. That's asher tasim lifneihem. Yes.
So you see from Abraham, right, when he was talking to Hashem,
yeah.
the people were coming. What comes first? Told Hashem, I gotta go. the malachim doesn't come first, other than Chaver comes before.
Wait, which story?
With Abraham and Hashem, with the malachim.
Oh, very good. That's a great example. That's a great example. When the people come, Avram thinks they're people. He says, hold off, God, right? Hashem, please hold my coffee. I got to go greet the guests. Yeah, very good. Yeah, the Maharal says something beautiful there. Why is that? You see, that's just a chutzpah, a patch Hashem. So he says, no. That is the greatest fulfillment of being, that's being godlike. That is the halachta bidrachav in its greatest emanation. The Rabbi Gamliel Rabinovich says something very, very beautiful. Rashi here writes, what is Asher Tasim Lefnehem? Not before, but placed in front of you, the classical definition. Rashi here writes, Amar lo Kadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, lo tal al daitcha lo mar eshelem perek v'alacha bezo gimel pamim ad shetehei stur b'fiyam kimishnasa. Don't think that you're going to have to learn this so many times. Veini matriach atzmi lahavinam ta'amei hadavar perusho lekach nemar asher tasim lifneihem kishochan ha'arach u'muchan lachol lifnei ha'adam. That when you are teaching the Jewish people the Torah, it should be taught kishulchan aruch. What does that mean? Like a set table before the people, before your students, and then it's prepared already for them to eat all the food, all the delicacies on the table. So he says, Rabbi Gamliel Rabinovich says, what does that mean? That the Torah should be taught as a table is already set with all the amazing food is already out, that when the students come, they're ready to fill their plates with all of the food. So he says, right? It's not enough to teach the Torah to your students or to your children. You have to do it with a tremendous amount of love. That they themselves want to pick up the food, right? Even before you're teaching. That they see it and it's so beautiful, set before you on the table. It's delicious. It's yummy, right? And they are so excited to pick it up. They want to fill their plates. And that's a big challenge. That's not easy, right? That's a big role that a Rav or a teacher needs to fill, but he says Hashem gives Moshe to Moshe Rabbeinu. Don't you have a big responsibility here. You have to make sure that when you're teaching it to them, you're teaching it the right way. You need to get them excited about the Torah, and that is really what is happening here. Okay, Sima b'fihim. The Torah says elsewhere they had to teach the Torah to the Jewish people and placed it in their mouths. I place it in their mouths because they want to digest the Torah. They want to appreciate the Torah itself. Okay, the great biography written by about Rav Chaim Kanievsky, that one of the mitzvos in the Torah this week. Well, I'll get to what the mitzvah is. I don't want to give it away. So it's a great biography. I'm a big fan of biographies, and they tell a lot of the book is about Rav Chaim's amazing. He had a routine. Every single day, every single hour, everything was accounted for. Even when he met with people, very, very, his whole day was unbelievable. Rav Chaim passed away Shushan Purim almost 3 years ago. They say the following, maybe almost 2 years ago, that Rav Chaim's regular routine was to make Kiddush right after davening. Right, he would daven very early Shabbos morning, and he would make Kiddush, and at this Kiddush, he would have mazonos, and he would always have kugel, okay? At the same time, and then he would pass out the kugel to everybody who came to his house. And he would always share Dvar Torah from the Duvda Magid. The Duvda Magid lived in Vilna. He gave over Mashalim, and Rav Chaim liked telling stories. And he had a dish of salt next to him, and he would pour salt into the pieces of kugel as he was dishing it out. how much salt? It really depends on how long the Dvar Torah was, right? So he said, this person telling this story, Rav Shmuel Greineman was telling the story. He said he brought a friend of his. When my friend arrived, Rav Chaim asked the Rebbitzin to give the chassan an extra large serving of kugel. Right? The Rebbitzin would cut it, give it to Rav Chaim, salt, pass it along. The bacher ate, right? So my friend arrived. He asked the Rebbitzin to give the chassan an extra large serving of the heavily salted kugel. The bacher ate and ate until he could eat no more. But the Rav said to him, got to finish your kugel, right? We have to learn. So Rav Chaim handed him the piece of kugel. He saw that he didn't eat the whole piece of kugel. And he said, you have to make sure you finish the kugel. You can imagine this situation here. Like if you went to Rav Chaim Kanievsky's house and he handed you a piece of kugel, you can't not finish it, right? You cannot finish it. This boy just became a chassan. Okay, so wonderful. So the chassan somehow, finished the whole piece. Okay, he came back the next week, and he asked Rav Chaim, "Thank you so much. Last week was amazing, but I need a smaller piece this week. It was too much. It was too much." So Rav Chaim made kiddush as usual, said his usual Dvar Torah, but this is the Magid, and added salt to the kugel. And when he got up to this guy's piece, he added more salt than usual. And so he said the following out loud to Rav Chaim. He said, "What kind of conspiracy did you make with the Rebbitzin? She didn't give me a small piece. She gave me a big piece. And you added more salt than last week. And I asked for less. So now, not only did the poor chassan have to eat a double portion, but he had to swallow all that additional salt as well. Right? You cannot eat it." And then Rav Chaim, in the middle of his Dvar Torah, turned to him and said, "Finish your kugel. What's going on here?" So this friend, a little chutzpahdik, said, "Why do you care so much that I finish my kugel? Well, I asked you for a smaller piece. You gave me a double-sized piece. And I explained how the salt wasn't." Rav Chaim said, "To finish your kugel. What's going on here?" Rav Chaim said the following. You got engaged to a daughter of an almana. After the wedding, you're likely going to spend a lot of time at your mother-in-law's house. And oy vavoy, woe to you if you don't eat every morsel of food that she puts in front of you, regardless of how it tastes. You have a double mitzvah to be sensitive to a mother-in-law like any other son-in-law. She's also an almana. And I'm training you that no matter how good or bad, salty or sugary or spicy the food tastes, or bland, say thank you and eat the whole thing. So we learn of the one of many, many times the Torah tells us in our parsha. So I put this story away and I filed it in Parsha Mishpatim. Why Parsha Mishpatim? It's a mitzvah to take care of the almana ger v'yasam. It's one of the many times the Torah says, Hashem says, those are on my back. You got to take care of them. Those are my special children. You got to watch out for the almana ger v'yasam.
So how do you handle the situation when your mother was not a good cook? What can you say? What can you say if you eat it and she asks you? What can you say? What can you not say?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
But she said she enjoyed it.
What?
She says, did you like
You
it?
did. You enjoyed making her happy. Period. Not a
You
question.
can't say it tastes good. That's you white lie. Like that.
Yes.
So lie.
Yes. 100%. Yeah, Michael? Wait, Michael, can I just finish one more thought? Because we can't, the people on the Zoom gonna have a hard time hearing you, okay? Okay, one last idea At the end of the parsha, we talk about Matan Torah. The Torah says the following, very, very cryptically, Vayiru es Elokei Yisrael, that the people by Matan Torah, or maybe just the people that were closer on Har Sinai, Vayiru es Elokei Yisrael, V'tachas Raglav, right? They saw the God of Israel, and they saw that by God's feet, K'ma'aseh livnasa sapir, u'k'etzam hashamayim latohar. They saw some type of sapphire brick before God, and they saw something very, very pure before Hashem. What does this mean? Says Rashi, why does God have a sapphire brick by his kisei kavod? He haisa lefanav be'esa shibud. This brick was before Hashem at the time of the slavery. Lizkor tzarashon shel Yisrael sheyu mishubadim b'maisa levanim. The Jewish people made bricks. God took one of those bricks and kept it there. It became beautiful and ornate and holy. And this brick transformed from just a regular mundane brick to something very, very beautiful after the Jewish people left Egypt. Asks Rav Sorotskin, why are the Jewish people only seeing this now? What are they seeing? They're seeing that God was with them during their time in Mitzrayim. He did not forget about them. He had a reminder next to his bed, right next to his holy seat, each and every day. That's very beautiful. But show them that during the time of slavery, not now. What's going on here? Why now? So he says, he's teaching the Jewish people that their time in Egypt was essentially a purification process. And the brick now turned from a brick to something that appeared like sapphire. The same bricks that were red with blood of slavery now have the appearance of gems. The Rosh Yeshiva of Hebron, Rav Avraham Farbstein, says something a little bit different. He says the Livnas Asapir appeared like the red brick during the time of slavery, and the Etzem Shamayim Latohar was at the time of Geula. It was the same brick because the two experiences go hand in hand. Meaning, the experience of the red brick, the blood of the Jewish people, the suffering of the Jewish people, and the Geula really both go hand in hand. We spoke about this a little bit last week, that Moshe's children didn't experience the suffering, so it was harder for them to experience even the good things. They missed Matan Torah, did not miss Matan Torah. Either way, when you're missing that those experiences in Mitzrayim, as difficult as they are, it's hard to then experience all the euphoric moments in the Jewish people's history. And that's Baruch Mordechai Ezrachi, one of the Gedolim in Eretz Yisrael today, in his Sefer Birchas Mordechai, says that we need to teach our children both of these aspects, the Etzem HaShamayim L'Tohar and the Livnas Asapir. We need to make sure they look at their challenges and everything they struggle with, right? Because the challenges and the successes usually go together. Very often, these successes are amplified because of the challenges. Sometimes they could only happen because of the challenges, and sometimes not. But when you're able to look at the world and our experiences, personally, nationally, in a bigger, wider lens, then we can appreciate everything that's happened. I truly believe that's why many, many people feel the need, whether they can physically go or they can't, to connect to Israel, to actually show up in Israel. And thousands and thousands of people. Mizrahi, right, we have a meeting today to finalize our schedule. You know how many trips Mizrahi has run just themselves? Over 45. They're not in the tourism business. That's not their goal. But people, communities, shuls, schools, individuals just want to go to connect to the Jewish people. There's an article, right? You know how many people made Aliyah after October 7th? In October, 700. How many people made Aliyah to Ukraine? Lahavdil, right? During the Ukrainian war? None. Everyone ran away. That's what usually happens. Again, it's war-torn, the whole country, you don't know where they're about them. In Israel, thank God, it's only in certain areas. But nonetheless, you can appreciate really what is happening in Eretz Israel when we experience both aspects of this, the Jewish experience. Stop here for today.